Hi, hello, hello. So today I thought we would maybe paint this PYS, Paint Your Style reference photo for 2024. It is a field of poppies. It's blue sky, field of poppies. The poppies are very, very up close. I have painted this once before. I didn't paint it on my square paper, which I like to paint my reference pictures on, my Paint Your Style reference pictures on. So I'm going to repaint it on this paper so that I have it on the square so it can go in my album. And if you'd like me to flip through my album one day, I'll be happy to do that. You just have to let me know if that's something you want to see. They're not all my Paint Your Styles, but there's a lot from this year and a few from last year that would fit in there because I did transition over to this paper, I think sometime last year. I can't remember for 100% sure, but I do have this new palette by Beautiful Swirls that I thought I would use today. It just came in the mail. It's really awesome. It's high gloss. You can see all these little places to put my paint. I also have my palette from Masha, my other palette from Masha. I have my Good Press from Lisa, my bunny and girl and kite palette. If you see, there is a girl here, I promise. There she is. Every once in a while, I will just wipe off the rabbit or something that I feel I like to see. There's some little stuff there. And then my Meeden palette over there. And I also have another little palette. And then I have another little Good Press turtle palette, which actually comes with a lid. So didn't know you were getting a palette tour today, did you? I didn't either. I love my brush rests. These ones are from Lisa as well. This one's from Masha. They're often off to the side here. I'm gonna use a lot of different paints. I have handmade paints. I have some commercial paints. I have some brushes here. I have my trusty, very well-loved cloth towel. My brushes set aside. I'm gonna grab a few more brushes and we're going to get started. So this is 100% cotton paper. It is, I believe it's the artist grade by Bao Hung. It's from All About Art International. I really, really enjoy their papers. I really enjoy getting Arsh and Bao Hung from them. So you can buy both of those papers there, my two favorite papers. And then for swatching, I love Leather Village, but these two are the two Arsh and Bao Hung that you can get from All About Art, and I absolutely love, love, love. Okay, so the first thing about this picture that stands out is it kind of goes on a diagonal, right? So the flowers on one side, the blue sky goes down one side. So it's kind of like a division. So we have a triangle shape sort of ish. The blue sky, the orange yellow poppies, a few white flowers, and some green stems, and then some stems up in here and some other places that are very highlighted with light. This reference photo, I'll probably add in somewhere along the line. If not, you'll know where to find it on my Instagram. And not sure necessarily, I'll give credit to who took the photo when I do post it in the description, but I'm not sure the reference will be linked there as well. We have to wait and see how that works out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I think, what is a very bright blue that you would lean towards using? I think what I would use is maybe I would play with some cobalt. So I'm going to grab cobalt. I'm going to grab maybe a spinal turquoise. So cobalt and a spinal turquoise, and maybe I'll grab some shadow snow by Masha, and just kind of mix those three together. I'm not a super straight from the pan girl, but I do love it. So don't get me wrong. It's absolutely 100%. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I just do love to grab different colors and mix them in with my colors so that I get a unique color. And I get granulation, and I get texture, and I get movement. And so then when I add, maybe I want to go back and add just a little bit of cobalt to maybe this top area, right? And so I'll get a little bit of differences in the sky, and that's why I like to use so many different colors in my blues, so that there's some variances in the sky, right? I don't want a perfectly smooth, flawless sky. I want texture, and I want some stuff going on, differences, variances, right? Some darker areas, some lighter areas. But that's just me. If you love the smooth sky, by all means, make your sky perfectly smooth. It's your adventure. Choose your own adventure and do it the way you want to do it, right? Do it the way that makes you happy. Honestly, just do everything that makes you happy. That's what art's about. It's not trying to necessarily copy exactly what everybody else is doing. When you're learning, I feel it's an absolutely great way to learn. I've learned the same way. I still learn the same way, right? I still emulate others' work, and I still practice tutorials. And what are tutorials, right? Copying somebody else's work, essentially trying to give your own twist, but basically you're, emulating someone else's style in hopes that it becomes yours. And so that's the whole goal. I'm just going to talk my way through what I'm going to do. This is not a teaching video. This is not a step-by-step lesson. This is not necessarily what you should do. Maybe it'll give you some ideas of what you do for this week. Maybe it doesn't, and that's okay. Maybe you just want somebody to listen to while you paint, right? Maybe you just want to hear something in the background. I often turn on an audiobook, or I'll turn on another tutorial. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I did take some permanent gamboge, but I'm going to take some yellow ochre, and I'm just going to put it just randomly in random places. I'm kind of following the photo. I'm not being a stickler. I'm not placing them. I did not use masking fluid. I'm not about to. I'm not avoiding the places I want the color. If you want to, you absolutely 100% can do all that. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying I'm not doing it. And you can 100% do that. And that is amazing and wonderful. Do, again, what makes you happy, right? And I'm just not really a masking fluid girl, and I'm not really into super detail. So what I'm doing is just a very loose, very loose, getting color, getting my base, and making sure that I kind of have an idea of where I want to go with this. Does it have to be exact? No, not at all. Is it going to be? Heck no. If you know me and you've seen me work, definitely not going to be exact. It's not going to be detailed. It's not going to be realistic. It's going to be none of those things. And that is okay, right? It doesn't need to be. I just wish I could stress that enough. If you're like me and you can't paint realistically, nor do you really have the drive to paint realistically, it's not your thing. Maybe you just don't want to, right? Because so many people do it, and I mean, I don't know. I don't feel the call to do it. Maybe that's more what it is, the calling. Maybe some people feel called to paint more realistically, and some people don't. And I feel like it's okay. And if you like to do both, that's even more awesome. Maybe one day I'll be able to do both. Maybe one day I will finally learn to draw like I keep saying I will. I do baby steps here and there, but I don't focus enough on it. And it's just not my strong point. I'm just not very good at it. And to be good at something, to watercolor, you don't have to know how to draw. You don't have to master other things that other people say you have to, or that they have in their journey, just to do something, just to be able to paint watercolor. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Maybe you feel differently, and if you do, that's okay too. It's what kind of makes the world go round, right? We all have different thoughts, and we all have different belief systems and ways that we look at things, and different, I won't say pressures, but different, I don't know, just different ways we maybe grew up and feel that we have to learn certain things, or ways that I don't know. I'm rambling now. Okay, so now I'm just going to drop in some green. I am using a green, a lunar lunar yellow from my 31 Purple Fish palette, the plein air palette that I did with Kelsey back in, was it July or June now? I know it's end of July now, but I don't remember if we did it this month or was it last month. I feel like it was probably the beginning of this month. Was it? Oh my gosh, I cannot even remember. So anyway, everything's kind of leaning this way. There are a few, it might be a slightly breezy day because I do feel a few grasses that are maybe trickling, or not trickling, but kind of going maybe this direction, but some are going this way. And again, they're kind of highlighted by the sunlight, so I'm not going to be super detailed or worried about, oh, that's the wrong color, or there's not enough lighting on that one, or oh, you did that wrong, or that's not where that goes. Not at all. That's not my style. That's not my thing. That is not what I'm after. For me, I don't do commissions. I don't do work for anybody else. This is for me, just for my practice and my own, my own goals. But I also really, really enjoy showing you that anybody can do this and encouraging you. Again, I'm more about encouragement. I'm not so much the teaching type. I'm more encouraging. I know I do have Skillshare, but that's, something I wanted to try for myself to see if I could do it. And also I wanted to get the free year, quite honestly. At the time I did it, there was an offering for a free year if you qualified. It doesn't happen all the time, so just because you're a Skillshare teacher doesn't mean you get a free membership. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. I kind of think it should. But again, they kind of let anybody teach, so I guess they'd be giving away a lot of a lot of memberships. So anyway, this isn't about Skillshare at all. This is about making art accessible and encouraging people, and just encouraging them to do it their way and what makes them enjoy art the most, right? What makes art most enjoyable for you? That's what I want to focus on, and I want to focus on finding ways. Maybe you really want to paint this photo, right? But you're looking at these poppies and thinking, holy cow, those are some detailed poppies, right? They are very poppy shaped. Some of them are rolled up and folded up, and like before their blossoming opening, maybe it's early in the morning and the sun just hit them. They haven't fully opened yet. Some of the greenery is very detailed. And so I guess what I really want to share with you is how I approach this in an undetailed way, because I do love loose art and I do love loose watercolor, and I think it's important to remind people that it doesn't have to be done all detailed. Because when I was learning, I started off learning flowers, and they were all very detailed, and it was so very scary. There was so much detail, and peonies were one of the very, very, very favorites of people on most outlets, right? Most tutorials and demonstrations and all those things. So they were very, very popular, and I was really struggling with them, and it made me really kind of turned off from watercolor. I was also using the wrong paper. Please, for the love of everything, just use 100% cotton paper, Arch, Bauhung, Meeden, something of that sort. Not something, use one of those three. They're all very, very good papers, and they will really save your sanity and save everything with you learning this thing we love so much, this watercolor journey. Because 100% paper absorbs water in a different way than, say, your half cotton, half cellulose, half whatever kind of papers. You're just going to get a very different feel, and the way your paint sits on the the way your paint sits on the paper, the way your water sits on the paper, how long your paper stays wet, how evenly wet it is, how the paint flows, how the paints flow together. There's so many little nuances, and it really, 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 truly, truly, truly does matter what paper you're using. I can't stress that enough. I really did try to hold out and use cheap paper for so long. It was so incredibly ridiculous of me. And it would have saved me so much time had I just sucked it up and paid the money and got the good paper. But nope. I was being, I guess, frugal, or I guess I didn't understand how paper could make such a difference. And it's not a joke. It really, really does make a huge difference. Okay, grabbing some yellow ochre. That was some burnt sienna I just added in here. Now what I'm going to do is going back over that burnt sienna. It's really heavy, and so I'm just going to go back over it with my yellow ochre and sort of blend these all out. By blending, I'm really just blobbing yellow ochre and water there. So yes, I will probably get some more sort of bleedy lines and stuff, hard lines, soft lines. I'll get all sorts of things. I can already see my paper is drier on this side, so I'll be getting some harder lines over there, and that's okay. So we're just going to keep going along until you feel somewhat satisfied with that. And I feel that might have got a little dark in there, so what I'm going to do is I'm just taking a wet brush and I'm kind of picking up some of that color and wiping it on I'd say clean towel, but this is not a clean towel, and it doesn't really need to be clean. I don't find that it goes back, so if you drop anything, a little fuzz on there, just grab it up with your brush. So now I'm looking, just trying to think of what to do. I might soften this green out right here a little bit, maybe this one as well. And you might not notice a difference, and sometimes you won't, and that's okay. Sometimes we just do these things and it feels better in our minds. I'm not sure it makes a huge difference on the paper, but Sometimes it feels like it does. And so anyway, I'm gonna go back in with my lunar yellow and maybe a tiny hint of black forest. I'm mixing those two together. That's what I had used before when I got a little darker. And I'm just gonna drop little bits, maybe little bits of darker color in some of these sections, just to kind of let that explode. The paper's still wet, and so we want some good movement going on here, so that we have some, you know, grasses and leaves coming, not grasses, but the poppy foliage coming through and sort of coming over things and just kind of wild and free, right? I don't want this to be so perfect and well, it's certainly not perfect, but I don't want it to be too I don't know the word. I don't know. I think you get my drift from the way I've been talking this whole time. Okay, so I'm gonna do some little foliage going like different ways and just kind of mixing that up a little bit here. Now I'm gonna take my bleed proof white, breaking all the rules today. Okay, some people don't necessarily think bleed proof is something that should be used, or like wash. Some people don't think black paint should be used. What are some other rules? I don't know. There's some silly rules like that, and you know, it just depends up to the artist. I shouldn't say silly rules. There are some rules out there, or some ways of thought that people buy into, and for some people they get very, you know, hyper fixed on those things, and that's okay too. It's all okay. Nothing is wrong with any of these things, right? They're just all different ways of thought, and I want you to know that they're just ways of thought. They're not rules. They're nothing set in stone. Nothing has to be done a certain way. So this painting does have a little bit of white. So I am taking a liner brush and I am just kind of dropping in some little hints of white. The trick about this white though, you have to do it against something that's kind of dark, right? You can't stick it in the light as part of your painting like I did right here, because you're not going to be able to see it. So what I'm trying to do is find a little patches of darker area, and I'm just going to drop in a few little florals here, little white ones, and this will dry a lot lighter. So if you're like, ooh, that one's a little atrocious, we can blot it out, we can check it out later. We can also just take our white and we can cover our stuff, because this stuff does splatter. We can just maybe splatter a little bit. Our paper's still wet, so it'll diffuse a little bit. So we're just adding a little bit of white in there. Okay, or I'm adding a little bit of white, right? And so again, if I thought maybe these were too brash, I would just take my cloth. It's a little bit wet, so make sure it's a little bit wet, and just dab it off to make sure it's not too wet. And then I would just boop, right? And that actually took that all away. So maybe that's not what I wanted, right? Maybe that was too much. So I'm gonna go back in and I'm just gonna dab a little more white back in there, but now it's pretty watery, so I might only get a hint, which is fine, because these are actually, it's actually not bad, because these are blurry in the background. So these white flowers are in the distance, so they're not crisp in the reference photo. They're very, like if you closed your eyes and squinted, you know, they're just that blur, that kind of blur. And so I'm gonna leave that and maybe just add a little more right there. Okay, and I'm just gonna leave that. That's all I want. There's no real white down here. We can add a little bit later if we wanted to, but for now, I'm going to hit this with a heat tool and dry it, or you can let it dry. What you see me doing is testing my paper. If it's cool to the touch, it still needs to dry a little bit. It's mostly room temp after you let the heat tool kind of dry off a little bit, or cool off a little bit. There's a little bit of coolness over here, but I think it'll be okay. I did want to tell you though, when I splattered, I typically use a round size 4 on my Artify brush that I really love for splattering. It's got a great tip. It holds just the amount of right water for me. I'll show you more when I add the shimmer at the end. So what I'm thinking now, going back to my reference, pull up my reference again. Always have your reference in front of you if you're doing a reference photo. Or here's another thing. If the reference photo intimidates you so much that you're being a stickler and trying to stick to it so much that it's kind of driving you slightly insane, get rid of the reference photo. Have what you know in your mind. You know the blue, you know the yellow, you know the white, and you know the green, right? And do what you want. These paint your style is exactly that. Paint your style. You don't have to paint what you see. I don't care if it even looks like remotely like what the picture. Mine does not look like the picture right now. I have way more florals than I have blue sky. And so mine is completely off. So what I'm gonna do is re-wet my paper all over. Probably too much water, but hey, that's how I like to do it. If you don't, that's okay too. Don't use so much water because I do use a lot of water. I'm going to take my Cobalt Blue back again, and I am going to put some on my palette here. I'm going to water it down, so I'm just gonna add lots of water, and I'm going to go ahead and get some more in this corner here. I want to darken up my sky a little bit, just a little bit. I feel my sky is not enough sky per the reference, but I'm gonna let that go. I'm going to go with what I already have, so that's okay. Let me show you the one I already did. Actually, I'm not gonna show you the one I already did. The one I already did was horizontal, and I'll show when the week comes for this reference, this particular reference. I did paint it while camping, so I did paint it early. So what we do is we choose all the references early on, and then I like to do that. That way we can paint them as time permits for us as individuals. So often, you know, I used to wait till the very last minute, and so now I've been trying not to do that because it's hard, right, with 7 other people to try to plan that. And so some of us have been trying to get ours done earlier, but sometimes, you know, life sneaks up on you and you don't get to do that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back again with more yellow. I'm gonna cover up some of these lighter areas a little bit. They do seem to be kind of overtaking. I'm going to mix a little bit of burnt sienna with that ochre. I just wanted to maybe even I'll mix some permanent orange with the yellow ochre. Those are some OG colors. And so then I'm just going to softly maybe dab those colors in there. Maybe I'll even take some burnt sienna and I'll cover my, stop using your hand, cover my paper, and I will splatter the burnt sienna with my big brush here. I don't normally do, but let's get some of that color on there. Let's go ahead and, okay, this isn't the brush I usually use for splattering, so let's make those a little bit bigger so we get some more sort of, sometimes you just do this so that you get sort of help, like, right, I'm not sure what to do next, so maybe I needed some more texture in there. So now we have little spots of darker color. So now it kind of leads me the idea, okay, I definitely need some more darker color in there. So I'm gonna go in with my burnt sienna, ochre, permanent orange mixture. And I think I'm just going to add little hints of area. And again, I'm not keeping this very detailed at all. This is staying pretty darn loose. And mainly it's because I can't paint poppies, right? I don't paint poppies. They're not something I paint, but I can suggest them, maybe not. Maybe some of you are like, oh, no, she's not suggesting anything. She's just making a yellowy orange mess. And that is okay, right? As long as I'm having fun, I'm enjoying myself, seeing where it takes me, I feel like it's okay. It doesn't really matter. Now I'm gonna take a yellowish color, or yellowish, a lemon yellowish color. And I'm going to take some of that. And I'm going to, sorry, I was watching my pet play in the packing material of the box I just opened. Okay, so I'm just kind of dropping yellow in there. Again, there are no details right here. I'm not really making particular shapes of flowers. You know what I do want to do? I think I want to add some darker green in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get some more lunar yellow and a hint of our black forest. More water, using my liner brush again. Taking that, making sure my tape is staying down. And then I'm going to maybe just add, okay, less water because you don't want the paint to run as much. I want the paint to stay where I put it. So less water at this point because I don't want to dry quite yet. I still kind of like the diffused feel of things, but I do want some of these colors to start, I want some of these greens to start being a little more prominent, right? A little more detailed, just slightly, just so that maybe I see a line or two, maybe I can tell that those are foliage instead of just blurred color, which is fine. Okay, so I'm just going straight from my pan right now onto my paper with the paint. So again, that I have slightly more. Okay, so now what we can do is we can kind of take our green and we can maybe grab what we imagine to be a flower, and we can start making little stems so that maybe this gives the illusion of flowers. Maybe not. If you don't like this, you don't have to do this. Okay, so I'm just going to grab some blobby areas and maybe start giving some of these little areas little stems so that we can work with something. So I'm just going to add a few of those. These are going to be really close-up ones, so I'm not going to add anything there. Maybe one there. Don't love what happened with that one, so let's just blur that out a little bit. It's so nice in watercolor that you can kind of erase and play with things in different ways. Okay, so let's just, there we go. I think that's going to be it for now. And we can kind of, there we go. Okay, I think that's going to be it for now. So what I want to do now is take a little bit of burnt sienna, and then I want to add at the very, I don't want too much water. I'm gonna grab my burnt sienna, put it over here where I had my yellow ochre mixing. Maybe even grab a little bit of yellow ochre and mix that in there too. Again, don't want too much water at this point. And then I'm just going to maybe dab a little bit at the top of my green stems so that the idea of a flower starts to maybe take shape. And then after this, I can add in a little bit more. But also, when my paper dries, when I dry it, I can also go back and do this again, and I can add these again, and I can also add some flowers, and I can, you know, do this little base thing all over again so that it kind of bleeds all together versus stands out, because I don't want these to be too obvious. And you know, they might look a little obvious if I keep going like this, which you know, it could. Sometimes obvious is okay, especially when it's so vague, right? This is a very vague one to begin with, so with all this abstract, maybe some obvious is good. Maybe not. So we're just going to do the suggestions, right? These are all suggestions. So not only are what I'm saying are suggestions, but these hints of color and placement are suggestions to the eye of what you want to see, what you feel like you might see, and what you do see, what reality. So, and you know, that's the great thing about abstract and loose watercolor is that it doesn't have to be exact, because you're giving a suggestion to the viewer for what they might see, and that's what we're doing. So let's go ahead and dry this again. So now we're going to come back with some green. I realized that I did not add any stems to these white flowers. So what I'm going to do is just kind of maybe drop a little tiny bit of stem on those, just so they're not completely floating out there and nowhere. And again, they're super blurry, so it doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't even have to resemble anything of anything. Okay. So I realize I say so a lot. My apologies. I'm trying to break the habit of and I guess I've replaced it with so. Darn it. Ay. I'm not sure how to break any of those habits. Let's see if I can stop saying those and see what I can do instead, and maybe just pause. Need to work on that. Okay. Or okay. But I think okay is going to have to stay. It's better than so, and it's better than So let's stick with okay. Let's add some more yellow ochre with a little bit of orange. So now what I want to do is sort of finalize some of these shapes, right? I don't have to be exact, but I just want there to be hints that there's varying shades of color and movement and direction of these florals. And I could get something like a dagger out and work with that, because I've stayed very much more loose with a dagger than anything else. I can also get a very a brush that I am very light with, like this. I got too much here, so I'm going to try to pick up some of that. Maybe I can go back to my round and see what I can do there. I'm just not super light with a round. They're so rigid to me. They feel very, the floppier the brush, I feel that I'm going to let loose a little more. So what I'm going to do, see, there I go. What I am going to do, I'm going to Sew buttons on my underwear, that's what I will do. Forgot I had this Raphael for you. Let's see if I can find my other brush. Let's travel and fold it up inside and we'll put it away for later. This reminds me of Raphael. Are these two same brushes? No, they're not. That one's fatter. I know I have two travel brushes. This is it. Travel Tintorettas are really heavy brushes and they need to be put away perfectly. Make sure, no, okay. All right, so we're back at it with some yellow ochre. This brush isn't really loose enough for me either. I'm gonna rinse it and skip it. I'm not a super fan, so let's grab, like I said, let's just stick with, let's grab the dagger, good old dagger. And let's grab my good old OG dagger too, not a stiff one. This is a super soft dagger. This is my Princeton. This is the dagger I love. It's in my Amazon shop. If you want to know the size and all that stuff, you can grab it there. It's in my Amazon storefront, which is in the link in my bio. In Instagram, not here. I'll try to remember to link it here too. Wherever this video ends up being, I'm not even sure. So here, it was too detailed, so I'm just gonna take my brush and pick up that color that I put down earlier and those little spots in that way. Don't love that. Maybe I just break some of them up, leave some of them. Okay, I'm gonna stand up and look at this because I'm not liking it from the angle I'm at. Sometimes when you look at it from a different angle, things change. I'm not sure they're going to change for me, particularly. Let's grab some permanent orange, mix it over here with what I have left of burnt sienna, I think. And then we'll just add again, once again, let's add little bits of orange here and there. What I might even do is go back to my splattering and just maybe hope that that adds some texture versus me trying so hard. I'm gonna add some Quin Sienna as well. Quin Sienna and permanent orange. Quinacridone, sienna, and permanent orange. There we go. And it is splattering on me. I can physically feel it landing on me and my face. I just felt it hit my face. So again, it goes everywhere. I don't love that about it. Let me put up a blockade here. Okay. This is not the best splatter brush, but I am liking this better. Okay. Now that we have that going, I am liking that a little bit better. There we go. Oh, I should have used my Ben's orange, but now I'm going to take a little bit of a very bright yellow. I have no idea what color this yellow is. It's been in my palette since 2018, and I just, again, have no clue what color it is, but we're going to add it here. Okay, and we're going to add some more dark. If this one kind of feels tedious, I kind of think it is, right? A lot of these reference photos for me are creating a base and then layering and layering. And when I say layering, it doesn't necessarily even mean that you have to wait for things to dry. You can and you cannot. You can do it a lot of different ways. There's always different approaches to pretty much everything we do here, right? Paint wise. You can let each layer dry and then you can spray it down again, or you can kind of do what I'm doing, and mostly I'm just adding to the spots. I stand up and look and I see where I'm lacking a little bit of contrast or depth or just something more, right? So that's what I'm doing with this liner. I'm just going back in and adding green here and there and there and here, and pretty much just doing that over and over, right? I am looking at the base of these flowers and try to giving them something to kind of what is that, earth down onto, what is the word I'm looking for, to not balance on, to ground, right, to kind of help ground them, and just kind of seeing what things, what kind of things need to happen. So I'm just going to keep adding green here. So for the sake of your time, I went ahead and sped up this last bit only because it's me literally just dabbing in darker and darker color. I did take an orange, a darker orange, and I just started dabbing on top of the other layers that I already had, leaving the other color behind showing. So we're building up, right? So the lightest, the darkest, and the medium and the darkest, we're seeing all three of those color layers, right? We're not covering up any of the other layers completely because we want all that depth and all that different color variation. So I am again just going back through and adding some more greens, some more oranges, and rotating between those two. And I gotta add some shimmer here and a little bit of just texture from the greens, and that about wraps it up. I am glad this one was done. It was longer than I would have liked to have been, but I think it ended up pretty, and I do like to cover up everything, so that's what I was talking about with those white pieces of paper. Just going back in just one more time, just to make sure I feel comfortable, and using that wet towel. So it is a good idea to use a damp towel versus just a completely dry towel. And that is, I guess I feel pretty good about it. I didn't follow the reference to a T, but I feel like it's close enough, and the colors make me happy, and it is in my style, which I absolutely can appreciate. It's not perfectly detailed out, not my style at all. So do it how you like to do it. And I'm super happy you joined, and I cannot wait to see yours. And I'll see you soon.